Okay, so I was gonna bring this up earlier. I said I'd save it for anyone else. This is what I was talking about. I kind of glossed over it a little bit, but in Emily Kaplan's report, Jay Woodcroft was the other name mentioned as a final candidate, which means Jay Woodcroft's interviewing right now. He's looking for work. Do you like Jay Woodcroft as a potential head coach for the Canucks?
I don't know if he's necessarily number one for me, but he's absolutely somebody I'd be interviewing and heavily considering. He's not in the same boat as those other recycled head coaches where he's had 3 or 4 different stops and a
Mhm.
mediocre track record. You look at his work in Edmonton, the Oilers were teetering on the edge of disaster when Woodcroft took over in the middle of the 2021-22 season. They'd lost the qualifying playing round of the 2020 bubble playoffs to an aging, mediocre Chicago Blackhawks roster that at the time was coached by Jeremy Colleton. Um, they were sort of swept in 2021 in the first round by the Winnipeg Jets, and they were outside a playoff spot when Dave Tippett was fired in February 2022. So just like think about that framework for a second, right? The Oilers hadn't done anything really since McDavid and Draisaitl's second year in the league, I believe, when in 2017 they made it to the
2017. Yep.
second round. After that, this is a team that was perennially losing in the first round and was at risk of missing the playoffs entirely. There was this conversation brewing about if this continues, McDavid and Draisaitl, are those guys going to want out? Woodcroft takes over. They instantly go on a 26-9-3 tear, which saves the franchise from an embarrassing playoff miss, and he instantly guides them to the Western Conference Final, which, again, first playoff series win since 2017 when McDavid and Draisaitl were literally 20 years old each. Following year, they finished second in the Western Conference with 109 points. Now, of course, there were roster sort of upgrades that happened around that time as well. They added Ekholm at one point, Vander Kane, so it wasn't all coaching, but you can see how they went from they're this mediocre, borderline, barely making the playoffs team that can't really go anywhere deep in the postseason to okay, this is one of the best teams in the NHL, flat out. That year they lost in the second round to the Vegas Golden Knights, who ended up winning the Stanley Cup, and then that's where heading into the 2023-24 campaign, Woodcroft had the disastrous 5-9-1 start that got him fired. And the mistake there was he wanted to switch the Oilers from playing man-on-man defense to more of his own style, similar to what Vegas won when they won the Stanley Cup,
Tampa.
um, Florida as well. And that sort of switch, he also switched their neutral zone defensive scheme. The Oilers just couldn't adjust. It was a bit of a tire fire defensively, but also they couldn't get any saves at the time from their goaltenders, and they had horrible shooting luck at 5-5, one of the lowest shooting percentages in the NHL. Plus, McDavid was playing hurt, Ekholm was playing hurt, so though there was just a ton of factors going wrong all at the same time, leading to that terrible 5-9-1 start. I believe it was Woodcroft got fired there, but really, you step back and look at his tenure as Edmonton's head coach, and the only blemish is those handful of weeks at the start of the 2023-24 campaign. Now, there are sort of questions I have as far as, okay, great. He proved he can coach offense in Edmonton, but in Edmonton, you have McDavid and Draisaitl. So can you do the same thing in Vancouver where you don't have those elite offensive weapons? And can you instill the right defensive structure and the right habits? And so I wonder if Rutherford and Alvin would sort of look at that and go, we don't know if he's going to be a fit for our roster specifically, but overall, I think he's a bright mind. He's really well spoken. I think he's really smart. And to me, if it's not in Vancouver, I expect him to have a lot of success in his second run as an NHL head coach, wherever it is.
I asked Bag Milk, Oilers Nation's managing editor, for the scouting report on Jay Woodcroft. This is what he said. He said he's a solid coach, good at X's and O's. He's a player's coach. Guys would love him, but he can also go back to the well way too often when something is working versus not working. He's really well thought out and calm, but can be slow to make changes when they're needed. I asked if he meant more so in game adjustments or he'll roll out the same line that hasn't been working for 2 weeks. And Bag Milk said both. So we'll see. it just came to my mind that Woodcroft could be a guy, and I want to quickly get to some response from the listeners right now. We got Angelo De, and I apologize, I can't pronounce that last name. We got Angelo in the chat who said Woodcroft sucks. Right below it, Wesley Cooper says Woody is the guy to hire. So you can see, some different opinions on Jay Woodcroft right now. So we will see which way it goes. But I just thought it was interesting because, again, he was a finalist for that Anaheim job as well. Means he's looking, and I could certainly see him getting an interview. So, again, if you're out at YVR, look for Jay Woodcroft. I feel like he's one of the guys that's pretty hard to pick out in a crowd, hey? Like he's one of the most he's one of the most normal looking NHL head coaches there is.
His hair is so jet black. I wonder if there's a hair dye going on there. But I feel like you could spot him in a crowd.
No way we're throwing out the hair dye allegations right now. Isn't he young? He's like 40 something. 48. 48. There's some hair dye. There's some hair dye for sure. I did not realize that he was like making Jim Benning look like he was going easy on the hair dye. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some hair dye going.
You can spot him in a crowd.
Okay, maybe. He's so normal looking.